Sophie Cunningham stepped back into the Indiana Fever facility after grinding through 6 long months of rehab, and the first thing that caught her eye? Caitlin Clark draining 3 after 3, 30 straight shots without a single miss. 30 in a row. So when Sophie was asked for her reaction, she didn't sugarcoat it or give some safe, media-friendly answer. What she said was equal parts shocking and electrifying, and the tone behind it made one thing obvious. This wasn't hype for headlines. It felt like a message to the entire league. Let's break down everything Sophie revealed in her first interview since re-signing, because she kept it real from start to finish. And trust me, she didn't hold anything back. Drop Sophie and CC in the comments if you're ready to see these two finally share the court again. After being away from the game for 6 months, Sophie Cunningham returned to the Indiana Fever's practice gym with a lot of uncertainty. She had no real way of knowing how her knee would respond once the intensity picked up, or what kind of team she was stepping back into after an offseason filled with changes. It didn't take long for both of those questions to be answered once training camp got underway. But before we get there, it's important to rewind, because the full story behind her injury is more significant than most people ever realized.
Start feeling healthy and completely yourself again, and at what point did you make that switch to focus on the season and less rehab?
Yeah, I try to do it ASAP. Rehab is horrible, right? And so I think for me, I feel like I got cleared 10 different times. I think people were just being extra sure, and so I fully got cleared in February, and so I've been going, and I feel good. It's nice to be back. You know, you play pickup and you do all this, but then once you get out here and you have to be intentional, you have to kind of get used to that speed again. But I feel great. I feel like, our surgeon here with the team doc did a great job, and I'm feeling like myself.
An MCL injury isn't something you just shake off in a few weeks. It's not as simple as resting, easing into a jog, and then jumping back into games. Sophie Cunningham was medically cleared at one point, but that was only the beginning of the real grind. There's a huge difference between a ligament technically healing and being able to plant, cut, and react in real game speed without hesitation. She put in weeks of intense rehab work, plyometric drills, controlled 3-on-3 runs, and structured team sessions, long before full court action was even considered. And even after all that progress, Sophie admitted to reporters it felt like she was cleared multiple times, with the medical staff taking every precaution. Full clearance didn't officially come until February, showing just how careful the process really was.
And I was fully cleared. They had all the doctors, they had the numbers and everything, but if you don't get in front of these people, then it's like, hey, like, are you actually good? And so that, I'm not even gonna lie to you, that was a little kind of frustrating, because I'm someone who, like, I kind of shoot it straight, where if I wasn't feeling good or like I was hesitant, I think I would have said something and like been honest, because I'm just in the point in my career where I just want to win.
The physical recovery is only part of the battle. Sophie Cunningham made it clear that the mental side is a completely different challenge, and in many ways even tougher to track. Your mind holds onto that exact moment when the knee gave out, and even after the body heals, that memory doesn't just fade away. She admitted there were still moments where that mental hurdle showed up, times when her body felt ready, but her mind hadn't fully caught up yet, second-guessing movements, hesitating on cuts she would normally make without thinking. It wasn't about pain anymore, it was about rebuilding that trust in her own movement.
Just since being cleared in February, what kind of workouts have you been doing to try to get back into game shape as much as possible? Yeah, I mean, basketball shape is just different. Like, you can run as many suicides as you want, you can get your butt kicked however you want, but until you're out here playing, you're never fully going to be in game shape until you're playing games. And so for me, it was just playing a lot of pickup. It was playing 1-on-1, 3v3. It was doing plyos. It was just doing all the little things that you just normally do. So it's like kind of a normal off season, but just a little bit more rehab.
Wondering, being back in the Midwest, like you talked about, being closer to home, being on the farm, all that stuff.
Yep.
Did that help shape or change your perspective at all, or appreciate that more this past summer going into this new contract? Like, I want more of this.
Honestly, not really.
Okay.
You know,
What really stands out is that Sophie Cunningham could actually point to the exact moment she knew she was truly back. Not just medically cleared, but fully herself again. It didn't happen in a big game or a formal practice. It came during a simple pickup run. She made a sharp cut, landed smoothly, and kept playing. Then it hit her afterward. She hadn't thought about her knee once. No hesitation, no second guessing, just pure instinct. That That was the turning point. When she finally spoke to reporters, her words reflected that mindset. She didn't go over the top or claim she was at 100%. She kept it real. The body is responding and the knee feels good. That kind of answer says a lot. It's the perspective of someone who understands the difference between feeling okay and truly being ready. At the same time, her recovery overlapped with free agency, which created a complicated situation. Teams wanted to evaluate her, but she couldn't string together consistent full-speed practices to fully showcase where she was at. She even admitted how difficult that was, pointing out that without being seen regularly, teams start to question what you can still do. So while working her way back physically, she was also trying to secure her future, proving her value in real time. And when you look at everything she was balancing, it makes perfect sense why a one-year deal ended up being the right move for both sides.
The Fever re-signed our good, close personal friend Sophie Cunningham to a one-year contract. Let's go.
It was close. It was close.
Can I be nosy right off the jump? Given the changes in structure and money and all of that over the last few weeks, like, was the contract better than you thought it would? Nope. Okay, sorry.
Nope. It's okay. I think,
Sorry.
no, it's fine because it's tough because I came off an injury and like I haven't been in.
While Sophie Cunningham was locked in on her recovery, social media was busy creating a storyline that wasn't even real. A few comments she made on a podcast about her contract quickly got twisted, with people spinning it into claims that she was unhappy in Indiana, that the Fever weren't valuing her properly, or even trying to move on from her. The narrative picked up speed fast, and Sophie had to step in herself to shut it down before it got any bigger.
Clarify, Boski, did you get a multi-year offer anywhere?
Other places I did. And so I know there was comments, whoa, this is your only offer. No, it wasn't. Like, of course, you know, so I need to stay off Twitter. It's the most toxic place ever. But I just wanted to shut that down because that's not what it was about. I just wanted to be with this group because I think, you know, the more that you can build and you do have a special group and you can stay together, that's when greatness happens. And so I think we do have something special here, and you know, you just want to be.
She took it straight to Twitter and addressed it head on. No filters, no spin. She made it clear, let me stop this right now. I'm not upset about the money. I just wanted a longer deal because I love being here. That wasn't some polished PR line. That was real frustration from someone watching her words get completely misinterpreted. The conversation was never about salary. It was about security and commitment, two totally different issues. But once social media blended them into one narrative, it created a storyline that unfairly cast a shadow over the locker room.
Twitter kind of blew up last night about a comment I made on my podcast, but I was taken, you know, just that's not what I meant at all. And I think if you listen to the full clip, you really understand that I just wanted to be somewhere for more than 1 year. You know, I'm almost 30 years old. I want to have a home. I want to kind of get established, and I would love to get established in a place like Indiana. We had such a great time, and you know, when you find a group of girls who really make you fall in love with basketball again, and you enjoy them not only on the court but off the court, like, you want to hold on.
Here's what was really going on behind the scenes. Indiana already had a framework in place for Sophie Cunningham's deal, but at the same time, general manager Amber Cox was exploring other possibilities. She was running the numbers on Alana Smith and Azura Stevens, trying to see if either could fit financially alongside the team's current core. The problem, both players were looking for max contracts, and the Fever weren't willing to commit to that. Smith eventually landed in Dallas, Stevens signed with Chicago, and once those options were off the table, Indiana finalized Sophie's deal, so the delay had nothing to do with uncertainty around Cunningham. It was simply the front office doing its job, evaluating every possible move before locking in the roster. And truthfully, breaking up that Tres Leches trio for a max-level frontcourt addition, especially one who doesn't fit Indiana's style, would have been a mistake anyway. Caitlin Clark, Lexi Hull, and Sophie Cunningham aren't just a catchy nickname. They've built real chemistry on the court. The spacing, the off-ball movement, the way they read each other, it all clicks because of that connection. You don't disrupt something like that for a piece that doesn't match the tempo and system the Fever are built around.
All of them this morning, they're like, we know exactly what you meant. The internet's doing what the internet does, and it's trying to stir things up, but it made me sound snotty and ungrateful, and that is the last thing I ever want. I am so grateful. I know I'm coming off a pretty big knee injury, and so it was never about the money. It was just about the years, because I wanted to be with them, and God forbid a girl loves her teammates, you know what I mean? So I think that we just have something special here when we're all healthy, and I'm just grateful to be back.
Sophie Cunningham didn't hold back when it came to the narratives being pushed online about her and the team. She was fully aware of what people were saying and why, and had no interest in letting those bad faith takes go unchecked, especially when they involved a locker room she genuinely values. And when you zoom out, that one-year deal starts to make a lot more sense. The Fever are looking ahead to 2027 when Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston are both in line for potential Supermax level extensions. Kelsey Mitchell already took a one-year Supermax herself to stay aligned with that timeline. Indiana needs to stay flexible financially, and Sophie's team-friendly contract plays right into that plan. It keeps the door open for the Fever to bring the entire core back together when those major deals come into play.
Yesterday we were talking. Kelsey was saying, hey, you should talk to other teammates about, hey, us all coming back and being here and things like that. Did you have similar conversations with teammates about getting back as a group?
1,000%. I think when you have a team like last year, it's just so special. And you realize when people are healthy, what we can do here in Indiana. And so, of course, we are all trying to keep our core together. And, we are so blessed to have a new CBA. That allows us, to make more money and to have a lot more benefits. And
take Sophie Cunningham out of this lineup, and Indiana doesn't just lose points or rebounds. They lose a very specific piece that makes Stephanie White's system work. It's the kind of impact you won't find in the box score, but it shows up everywhere on the court. White has been clear about the goal: push this team into the top 3 defensively by 2026 and turn stops into fast break chances. Sophie fits that vision perfectly. She can shoot on the move, defend across multiple positions, and naturally keeps the tempo high. Considering the Fever finished 7th defensively in 2025, this isn't just coach speak, it's a real area they're trying to elevate. The Tres Leches trio clicks because of how their movement and spacing complement Caitlin Clark's game. Clark commands so much attention that every teammate around her has to be ready to strike instantly. Sophie does exactly that with her ability to come off screens and knock down shots without hesitation. Defenses are put in a bind. If they leave Sophie to help contain Clark, she makes them pay from deep. If they stick tight to her, Clark gets open driving lanes. Either way, it's a lose-lose situation, and that's what makes this group so dangerous.
Sophie Cunningham's return to Indiana provides the Fever a key boost at guard depth, bringing back one of the league's premier shooters and instant momentum swingers in the WNBA. Due to injuries, Cunningham was never able to fully display what she was capable of in year 1 in Indiana. 2 May ankle injuries kept her from getting off to the start she wanted. And then, quite simply, she morphed into perhaps the league's best shooter over more than a month's time.
But Sophie Cunningham's value to this team goes way beyond basketball schemes or rotations. It's the edge she brings when things get physical. Back in a June 2025 matchup against the Connecticut Sun, Caitlin Clark was on the receiving end of some heated contact. First, JC Sheldon got her in the eye, and shortly after, Marina Mabry came in with a hard shove. None of it looked like normal in-play physicality. It felt more like targeted agitation, and Sophie didn't hesitate to respond. On the very next sequence, she grabbed Sheldon and brought her down hard during a layup attempt. The officials hit her with a flagrant 2. She was ejected immediately, and she didn't argue it for a second. The reaction was clear, even if nobody said it out loud. If you come at Caitlin Clark with that kind of energy, you're going to get the same energy right back.
Cunningham tried to fight Maisha Hines-Allen. She tried to fight Maisha Hines-Allen. You do not, there are not that many people. You can see everyone else is trying to get as far away from this situation as possible. Everyone else. So she hits a 3, Maisha Hines-Allen fouls her, and then tries to step over. And then Sophie Cunningham grabs her leg. Nobody's going near Maisha Hines-Allen, but no, Sophie Cunningham will start the fight. The refs are trying to break it up. None of the Mercury players are going to go near Maisha Hines-Allen. They're scared. She's scared of bejesus out of them. Maisha Hines-Allen is one of the toughest players in this league. Sophie Cunningham going head to head straight.
What separates Sophie Cunningham's physical style from simple aggression is how intentional and controlled it actually is. This isn't someone playing reckless or emotional. It's someone who knows exactly what she's doing in every physical exchange. And that traces back to something most people mention casually, but don't really appreciate. Sophie earned a Taekwondo black belt at just 6 years old, which means years of training in balance, timing, discipline, and how to stay calm when someone is trying to throw you off mentally or physically. That background shows up in her game more than people realize. She doesn't lash out, she doesn't get rattled, and she doesn't put her team in trouble with unnecessary fouls in key moments. When the fourth quarter comes and pressure rises, she stays available instead of spiraling out of control. That blend of toughness and discipline is rare on its own, but even more valuable when paired with someone who also has to space the floor and hit shots. It's not just physical presence, it's controlled impact, and that's what makes her different.
You're adding in a lot of good people. You have Monique Billings, who is an absolute stud, so athletic. Maisha Hines-Allen, who is a monster. Like, so glad we're on the same team now. I think she is too. And then you have like Raven Johnson, who is a great rookie. I've absolutely loved playing with her. Her vibe, her chemistry that we've created so far has been pretty elite at a very short span of time. And so I'm really excited about this team and where
She first built that reputation back in Phoenix with the Mercury, where she wasn't afraid to step in when opponents tried to push around her teammates. That edge didn't stay there. It came with her to Indiana. But now, she's not carrying that responsibility alone. Monique Billings and Maisha Hines-Allen add size and interior presence in the front court, while Tyasha Harris and Raven Johnson bring pressure and intensity on the perimeter. That balance means Sophie isn't left trying to cover every problem by herself anymore. Even the Raven Johnson situation was already addressed publicly by Aaliyah Boston. No tension, no confusion. And the coaching staff under Stephanie White has a clear structure in place for how ball handling responsibilities are shared. After 6 months of plyometric work, small-sided 3-on-3 runs, and non-stop rehab sessions, Sophie finally steps into training camp. And the first thing she sees is Caitlin Clark running a shooting drill that stops the entire gym. Not because anything broke down, not because something went wrong, but because everyone in that building paused for a second, trying to process just how effortless and unreal it looked.
Day 3 now.
Oh, yeah.
First 2 workouts. Anything stand out about Caitlin? What have you noticed about her as she's
Caitlin?
back? Yeah.
I mean, she's been back, hasn't she? Like, didn't she just
for the summer?
Yeah, like USA and all that. She's been doing her thing. So people are saying she's back, but I feel like she's been back. But you know, anytime you have her on the floor, she makes everyone around her better.
30 straight made threes. That number grabs attention, but it's not even the most impressive part. Sophie kept pointing out the same thing. The repeatable, almost identical release on every shot. No dips in form, no mechanical breakdown, even as Caitlin Clark kept moving non-stop between reps. This wasn't a stationary drill. Clark was constantly working into shots, coming off screens, relocating, catching on the move, and still knocking everything down. That level of consistency in a live drill setting says a lot because you don't accidentally stay that clean for 30 straight attempts. And then there's the passing. Clark has always been known for seeing plays before they develop, but Sophie described moments in camp where that vision looks almost unreal. No look passes hitting teammates in stride. Not because they're risky, but because Clark is already reading the floor a full couple of seconds ahead of everyone else. You can be watching it happen in real time and still feel like your reaction is delayed, because by the time the ball gets there, she's already seen it, decided it, and moved on. Caitlin Clark also shows up looking different physically this time around, but not in the way people might expect. She's actually leaner, and that change isn't accidental. She's been open with reporters about how managing her body is now a top priority at this stage of the season, and it makes sense. A 44-game grind doesn't just test skill, it tests durability. Players who aren't physically prepared get worn down quickly. After dealing with injuries throughout 2025, Clark has seen firsthand what happens when recovery and maintenance aren't handled properly. So she's returned lighter, faster, and built more for endurance over the long haul instead of short bursts of dominance. When Sophie Cunningham was asked about Clark's form directly, she didn't hesitate or try to frame it carefully. She simply said Clark is playing at MVP level, and the way she said it didn't feel like hype or teammate praise. It sounded like an honest observation, the kind of statement you make when you're just describing what's right in front of you, no different than commenting on what's happening outside the window.
Using the word special, what makes this group girls special?
Yeah, I just think you have a lot of greatness. You have Kelsey Mitchell, you have Caitlin, you have AB, and then you have other people who really know how to let the stars be stars, and everyone else is in their lane, and they know their role, and they do their role really well.
That kind of praise hits differently coming from Sophie Cunningham. She spent half a year away from the game, 6 months on the sidelines watching instead of competing, left wondering what version of basketball she'd return to. Then training camp arrived, and on day one, she's watching Caitlin Clark knock down deep threes and thread passes that literally quiet the entire gym. Sophie also said Clark has a way of elevating everyone around her and making the game more enjoyable. Those weren't polished media answers or safe compliments. They sounded like real reactions from someone who's just come back into the environment and immediately feels how different it is with Clark on the floor again. And she wasn't the only one who noticed it. The newer faces felt it too, and Sophie picked up on that chemistry almost instantly, because this Indiana Fever group heading into 2026 isn't the same team that made that playoff push. They're bigger, tougher, and built around a core that has chosen to stay together, not once, but twice. In a league where rosters constantly flip and rebuild, that kind of continuity is almost unheard of. Most teams don't even get one chance to keep a group intact. This one managed to do it again.
We're already established, it's like, how can we bring all these players back and fit them underneath that new umbrella? And so, there was details that need to be worked out, but at the end of the day, like, we're all pretty much back. And so we have new people who are going to help us, and it was a fun off season, but I'm glad that our core is back.
Kelsey Mitchell said it as directly as you can when she explained why she chose to stay in Indiana. She spoke about her bond with Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark, Lexi Hull, and Sophie Cunningham, describing it as genuine family energy that she just couldn't walk away from. That kind of language doesn't come from a player who's uncertain about her environment. It comes from someone who feels something real inside that locker room, even when other opportunities were waiting elsewhere. Sophie's decision follows that same mindset. She had longer, more lucrative options on the table, but still went with a one-year team-friendly deal. Not because she had to, but because Indiana felt like home in a way other situations didn't. And when a player values that feeling, they don't usually trade it just for extra security somewhere else. Athletes don't pass up money for a situation they're unsure about. So choices like this reveal more about the culture inside that building than any public quote ever could.
Really, really good. Some teams don't, but it is what it is, and I'm just focused on this right now. I'm happy that our group is here, and I know we're going to get back to where we left off last year.
Now, look at what actually showed up at training camp, and it wasn't speculation or wishful thinking. Caitlin Clark arrived looking every bit like an MVP candidate, drilling 30 straight threes and threading no-look passes that had even veteran players reacting late. Aaliyah Boston is locked in long-term on a 4-year, $6.3 million extension, the largest contract in WNBA history at the time it was signed, with her salary already jumping to around $1 million this season alone. Lexi Hull is healthy again, back in that Tres Leches wing group alongside Clark and Sophie Cunningham. Kelsey Mitchell, one of the league's most explosive guards, committed to another one-year deal to stay aligned with the same timeline as her teammates heading toward 2027. Monique Billings and Maisha Hines-Allen bring new front court size Indiana didn't have before. Tyasha Harris and Raven Johnson add defensive pressure in the backcourt, easing the load on both Clark and Mitchell. That's not a prediction of what this team might become. That's the reality that walked into the gym on day one of camp, and the bigger picture matters just as much. The Fever aren't only thinking about this season. With both Clark and Boston becoming max eligible in 2027, Indiana has to preserve cap flexibility to extend them without dismantling the core around them. Sophie's team-friendly deal is part of making that future possible. Amber Cox and the front office kept the core together, avoided overpaying for mismatched max-level additions, and still preserved the ability to act when those major contracts come due. That's the kind of roster building that rarely gets praised in real time. It only gets noticed when it goes wrong. So far, it hasn't.
But Kelsey's coming in with a great vibe. AB's coming in with a great vibe. Lexi looks phenomenal. Like, everyone just is looking good. And when everyone's at their best, in practice is like your hardest competition. That's a recipe for success. And so I'm just happy to be a part of it. I'm happy to be here. I will say I'm definitely feeling almost 30. I'm a little sore. I'm getting up there in age. Still 29. But no, I feel better than I ever have, and so I'm just excited that it's.
Sophie Cunningham came into this offseason saying she wanted to reconnect with her love for the game again. After 6 months of watching from the sidelines, she said she found that feeling in Indiana, and she's made that clear more than once. Then training camp opened, and she immediately got her answer about the group she was returning to. Whether the rest of the team had been putting in that same level of work all offseason was obvious from day one. Caitlin Clark knocking down 33 straight threes on the first day isn't just a good shooting drill. It's the result of someone who treated every off-season workout like it mattered. And clearly, it did. Now the rest of the league has had all off-season to prepare, but so has Indiana. Drop Sophie and CC in the comments if you're excited to see them back on the floor together. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. Click the video on screen. We'll see you in the next one.